Welcome to Into It with the Intuitive. I'm your host, Julie Bachos. Are you ready to get into it? Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I have a special guest, one of my good friends, Erin Pieracci. She's going to be on to ask some of those questions that you probably always have wanted to know as well. So let's get into it.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Julie. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Erin. We're glad to have you today. So what are some of those burning questions that you have?
I'm so excited to be here. I have so many questions, but I'll try to be brief. One of them sounds so silly, but can you read people's minds?
That's actually a pretty common question. So if I really wanted to an extent, I could get a pretty good read on what they were thinking, what they were feeling. Do I? No. So in the beginning, I would have a hard time blocking that out. So I would get information that I really wouldn't want because it would be almost overwhelming when you're like walking in the store and you're picking up on all these things that are going on with other people. But as you learn kind of how to put your blocks up and protect yourself, you can only let it through when you want to. And I don't feel like it's appropriate to read other people's minds unless I have their permission. Mm-hmm. Same way with just doing a general reading. I won't normally tell someone if I pick up on something unless I ask permission first or they're actually in a reading with me, because not everybody is open to hearing that, and I want to respect their space.
I love that. I've had a reading with you, and
you have?
It was wonderful and life-changing. And when I've spoken to people about getting a reading, at first they're a little apprehensive. They're a little nervous because they don't know what you're going to say. Oh, I don't want to hear bad news. I'm worried she's going to tell me, I'm going to die tomorrow. Can you speak to that?
I do know that there are some readers that will tell you those types of negative things. That's just something that I don't believe is my calling. I've always felt that this gift is to encourage, uplift, and to edify other people. I do believe that we have say in how our lives go. I don't think everything is planned out. So to tell someone they're going to die, knowing that you have free will to make choices that could alter that, I just don't know if that for me is appropriate, nor would I want to. So when you come into my reading, the whole goal is to kind of tap into what makes you you. Why are you here? What's your life purpose? What are you being called to? Is there anything that's stopping you or blocking you? And just kind of to give you that encouragement and nurturing that so many of us are lacking because we're constantly go, go, go 24/7.
Yes. Is it draining for you after a reading?
Yeah, I don't schedule back to back. I normally take about 30 minutes before a reading to just get grounded, tap into my clients' kind of energy, see if there's anything that I pick up before they get here, or if it's an online one. And then afterwards, I always give myself a good hour also. I won't ever do more than 2 readings generally in a day unless it's like a mini reading or a party. Because it is draining. And if I do a group activity, it probably takes me, depending on where I was at when I went into it, anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to fully recover.
What do you do to help in that recovery? Do you have any rituals?
So for me, solitude, especially in nature, is one of the best things that I can do for myself. Baths are really great. I like to do Epsom salt baths with some type of essential oil, and I'll also put some of my crystals in there with me. Meditation, Insight Timer is the app that I kind of prefer to use to do a guided meditation. And then for me too, a lot of it is just kind of sitting and just being instead of the doing.
All of those things seem so doable for everyone, and the bath sounds luscious and amazing,
It's
and I
very
want
amazing,
to
yes.
do it. Can you just go into a little bit more, because I want to copy your bath. I heard you say crystals and essential oils. Are we lighting candles? Is there, you said is it a guided meditation you're listening to, or an app, or just...
So the first thing that I do, obviously, is fill up the bath, and I will look over my crystals that I have and just see if there's any that kind of are speaking to me that I need to throw in there. And I find every time it's kind of different what I pull. So I'll put those in the bottom of the tub. I put about 2 cups of Epsom salt in, and then you want to add your essential oil to the Epsom salt, because if you add it directly to your bath, it won't mix. It just kind of sits on the top.
Right.
So if you mix it in with the salt, then it's going to dissipate. So some of my favorites are lavender oil, lemongrass, peace and calming. Those are all ones that I use. And then sometimes I'll light candles, have a glass of wine. Sometimes I will use like an incense stick, do some sage to kind of cleanse. My other favorite incense is cloves. I like that one. And then I usually put in ear pods so I don't hear my 4 children in case they're running around, so I can be quiet. And then I will do a guided meditation. And normally I'll start with maybe just a short, like 5-minute one on grounding or getting grounded. And then from there, I might listen to music, or I might go on and do a second meditation depending on where I'm at. And normally what I do is just kind of scroll through them, and then the one that my intuition kind of says, yep, that's it, that's the one I do. But I probably spend about 40 minutes at least in the bath. It's a good detoxifier too.
Yes, it sounds so relaxing. I bet when you come out, you smell amazing. And you're probably so relaxed and exhausted, I would fall asleep after that.
Yes, I definitely like to go from the bath to the bed and go to sleep. So.
That's why your skin's so soft. From those like those lovely baths with Epsom salts.
That and lots of moisturizer.
Yes. I have a question about something you said when you were preparing for a reading. You said that you ground yourself. And this is something new to me, a new concept. Can you tell us how you ground yourself and what that means?
So grounding is basically being present in your body and in the present moment, because a lot of times we disassociate because we have so much going on and we're so overwhelmed. So grounding is just coming back into that moment, connecting your energy back with source and the earth. And so for me, I like to sit in a chair or sit on the ground. I'll have my feet flat on the ground and I'll do some deep breathing. Usually I will inhale for a count of 6 and exhale for a count of 8. You always want to exhale more than you inhale, because think of it as getting rid of anything that you don't want.
Okay.
On the exhale, and then once I've taken 3 or 4 good deep breaths, I like to picture either roots coming out of my feet going into the earth. And in my mind, like in my vision, when I picture this, when they bust through, there's always like a big tree and a pond, and so they kind of like go into the water and like wrap themselves around the tree. But that's just the vision I get. Some people do it totally different. Then I like to envision a white light kind of coming down from the top of my head and flowing through my body. And then I just kind of take a few minutes just being there and making sure that my mind is centered. And sometimes my mind likes to think of things because it's hard to quiet our mind. So one of my favorite things is to picture like an empty bowl sitting beside me. And anytime a thought comes into my mind that kind of disrupts my presence, I pretend like I am pulling it out of my mind and putting it into the bowl for later.
I love that. I'm going to try that after I have my relaxing bath.
There you go. That's a good one.
So I'm a huge fan of your podcast.
Well, thank you.
I've heard every episode. Long-time listener, first-time caller. You talk about how we're all intuitive. You make it so accessible, and it's just like following your gut. You're just listening to your heart, and kind of getting out of your head. Do you have any books or apps or anything that you recommend for someone who's really trying to be better at listening to their own intuition?
So it's all about practicing, and the more intentional you are about connecting and hearing your intuition, the easier it becomes. I have a couple books on my website that I wrote.
Ooh, juliebachos.com.
About connecting to your intuition. Some of the teachers that I really resonate with would be Rebecca Campbell, Sonia Croquette. Who else do I like? I'm drawing a blank, but those are two. I'm more drawn to women that are in the spiritual arena currently than men. The divine feminine for me has been kind of at the forefront, and I think that's just because the masculine dominated so much of my early years that I'm trying to still balance that out.
Yes.
But I always think it's good to like go to a bookstore, go to the spiritual area, and then just kind of see what you're drawn to. I mean, I think that's pretty much how I found my first book. And I think the first book that I read was, I think it was Light is the New Black by Rebecca Campbell.
I just listened to that on Audible.
Did you like it?
I loved it, and she narrates it. It's fantastic.
Yes, she's amazing. And she has a lot of free meditations on her website, too, that are really good.
I did not know that. I'll have to check it out. But first, I'll check out juliebachos.com.
Thanks, Erin.
Yes. Do you ever feel the need to explain your intuition? When you don't have a clear answer for why you want to do something or don't want to do something, do you ever feel like you have to say, I'm sorry, I don't want to go with you because I'm getting a bad vibe? You know, you do. How do you explain when it's not concrete, when it's just a feeling, without hurting someone? You know, can you come over to my house? We're having a party, or something that they want from you that you don't want to do, and you don't have a clear, explainable reason. It's just a feeling. What do you say in those moments when your intuition is what's guiding you?
Well, I think that's all part of setting healthy boundaries. Sometimes, you know, when you're depleted, it's better for you to stay home. So I would say, you know, I'm just not feeling up to it right now, or I'm really dedicating tonight to some self-care. Those would be answers that I feel would be honest, but also not hurtful to someone else. Some people will like make things up. I wouldn't do that because I would feel too guilty for lying.
Right.
Plus, I'm a horrible liar, even if I tried. So,
and it always comes back around.
Yeah, true.
So honesty is the best policy.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure how to be honest with someone when it's just a feeling.
Yeah,
and I like how you described it, saying, I'm sorry, I'm just dedicating tonight to self-care, which is one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
And if you think about it, like, then you're giving that person permission to practice their own self-care.
Yes.
To not feel guilty about not doing something and saying no. I think people feel guilty about saying no, but my thing is, if you really don't want to do it, then don't do it. Why are you doing it? Life's too short to like say yes just because you feel obligated. Like, say yes to those things that are really going to, you know, fill you up.
I agree. Can I ask you about cell phones and social media and internet? How do you quiet the noise and make yourself not so available? If you're trying to listen to your heart and to ground yourself and have these moments of peace and calm, especially if you need to recharge and take that amazing bath, how do you do that without, I don't know how to word this. How can you still
be accessible but not fully accessible?
But not fully, not at all times. In this day and age, people expect a response to a text or reply to an email immediately because we always have our phones, But if we want to be present in the moment, we can't always be checking our phone and responding and replying at all times. How do we make those boundaries? Or how do you make those boundaries as an intuitive?
I think for me, one of the greatest features that iPhone came out with was the ability to set like your focus setting or your do not disturb setting. And so I have a setting that's just called personal. And basically nothing comes through unless it's from one of my kids, my husband, or my parents. Mm-hmm. So whenever I am with a client or am grounding, or even when I'm in the bath, sometimes when I'm in the bath I block everybody out though. And just tell people that I'm not
in a moment.
Yeah, but that's what I do. So then I only get those things coming through. But even in my everyday life, one of the easy things you can do that I went back probably about a year ago and did was just went into settings and just turned off all the notifications, because that was part of it, is like you're constantly getting all these notifications. You really need them. Yeah. And so I only kept the ones that I really, really needed, and that kind of stopped the phone, because every time it goes off, you look at your phone, you get caught in that, you know what I mean, you open it up, you check social media or whatever. So if it's not, you know, drawing you to it because it's not going off, I find that your time on it decreases.
I think that's so smart and great tips. I need to get onto my phone and set some of those settings and boundaries up with my cell phone. Speaking of how we manage our time and in our environments and our daily life, I just want to tell everybody about the room I'm in right now. I came into Julie's office. There's gorgeous chimes, windows, light, real plants, crystals, candles. It's just a peaceful place. How can we all, as busy women or men, how can we create an environment like this in our lives? Should we try to make our whole home a peaceful place, or should we make sure there's some corner of our world where we can go and have that feeling? I felt very when I walked in here.
That's what you're supposed to feel.
Yes, it worked.
Yeah. I mean, I am very, very blessed to have a dedicated space in the home we live in now. I didn't have a dedicated space in our last home, but one of the things that I have always tried to do is really make our house a type of home where people can come in, they can feel comfortable, put their feet up on the, you know, ottoman, grab a blanket off the ladder, and just feel like it's their home. So for me, I only bring into my home those decorations and those items that really connect to me. Mm-hmm. So I went through, it was probably about 8 or 9 years ago, and just got rid of the things that didn't bring me joy. And I know that sounds a little cliche, but if I looked at it and it didn't make me happy and I didn't love it, it's like, why am I holding on to this? It's just one more thing I have to dust. It's just one more thing I have to move. And so I think like simplifying those things and only keeping what you truly love, because then when you walk into a room and you look around, it's everything that you love. Mm-hmm. And so then it becomes that sanctuary. The house we had before, I used my closet.
Did you spend a lot of time?
I spent a lot of time in my closet, yes. So I literally would go into my closet and shut the door, and that was kind of my sanctuary away from everything, because that was the one space that I had that was just for me.
That shows that regardless of where you are, you can make a space where you feel at ease.
Yeah, as long as you're intentional. I mean, I prefer to be outside anyway, so when the weather, you know, is accommodating, I will be out there in nature. I think that for me is just the quickest way that I get refilled, but definitely, you know, we have some cold and very hot, like right now, summers, so having a space that you can just kind of go and escape to is good, not only for you, but for the rest of your family, so you can just recharge.
Yes, because when you're happy, they'll feel that joy, or when you're at peace, they'll feel that calmness.
You can't give to them something that you don't have. So when you're depleted, you can't pour out of an empty cup.
Yes, that's so true. Do we have time for one more question?
Sure, you can ask one more question.
I wanted to ask about our children. We are both moms of 4.
Mm-hmm.
How can we teach our children to tap into their own intuition and to listen to that gut feeling? My children were taught in school to obey authority regardless of how it makes you feel. You obey, obey, obey. And that didn't sit well with me, didn't sit well with them. How do we teach them to listen to that intuition?
So I did this with my own kids, and I will say that the younger they are, the easier it is for them because they haven't learned all of that stigma yet, telling them that they can't do it. So I actually have one of the books on my website is for families, and it goes through how I taught my own children how to tap into their own intuition, because Jason and I always believed that if they were able to tap into their own intuition, they would always be okay because they would always have wisdom and guidance even when we weren't there. Mm-hmm. And so we did a lot around the dinner table of just like asking questions like, okay, ask your intuition for a color that is for the person on your left.
Okay.
And so we would all go around, and normally my younger ones, like my 2 and 3-year-old, would be like instant have it. And they'd be like, I got it. And then my husband's like, oh my gosh, I still don't have it yet.
Yes.
And then we would spend some time looking up like what the different colors meant. So they're learning, but they're also tapping in. We would do some fun things just like, okay, what aisle do you think there's going to be a parking spot open? And I would let them pick in the grocery store. Just simple stuff like that.
I love that because it's also quality time together as a family.
Yes.
You mentioned that you have some ideas on your website. Are they available for purchase? Do you have a book?
Yeah, I have a book. So I think it's daily activities for families, and it's a 3-week kind of program. If you do it every day, that's pretty intensive. So it's probably going to be about a month to 2 months if you want to do it 2 to 3 times a week of not only an intuitive question or activity that you can do a family, but part of building that intuitive bond as a family is also changing the dynamic in the relationship. So it's moving away from that kind of authoritative, like, do what I say, don't ask questions, to developing an intimacy where they can ask you questions, they feel comfortable, calling you out on your shit when you do something, so that you have the opportunity to own it and apologize, which is how they learn. I think that for us is what kind of fostered the change in our relationship with our kids is that they were no longer being parented under fear, but they were being parented under love.
Under love and acceptance. I love that so much, 1,000%. What about for your listeners who do not have children, who want to learn more about becoming intuitive or tap into their intuition for themselves, for their partner, for a friend? Do you have something also available on your website?
Well, I do have another, it's like an interactive journal, and it's all about tapping into your own intuition. I also have activities at the end of every podcast.
Okay.
And then I also have a Facebook group that they can join called Awaken, and that's just a safe space for people to practice not only tapping into their own intuition, but once you're good at that, the next step is really tapping into it to help other people. So that's a place where you can practice giving and receiving words from other people also.
Okay.
And then getting feedback, which helps us grow.
I need to join that. Awaken, you said? Awaken on Facebook? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to find that. And where can we find you on social media?
I am on Facebook as Julie Bachos. I'm on Instagram as Julie Bachos. If you go to my website, all the little links are at the top too.
JulieBachos.com.
And you can find me there.
And that's where we can find those workbooks as
in
well.
the shop.
Okay, because I would love to be doing that with my family. I think it'd be so fun for us at the dinner table to have those fun discussions. And I'm sure at the beginning, my children are going to think it's silly and giggle and say their favorite color, but after the discussions that it will create, I think will be so valuable and will bring us closer together and will help them to listen to their heart.
Yes, absolutely. And I always say, even if you don't get an answer, that's an answer. So even if they say their favorite color, there's a reason why they said their favorite color. So sometimes we're like, well, that's just your favorite color. Well, maybe actually they were supposed to say that.
Right.
So it's just, as parents, we have to really be open to letting them take control and just trusting that, honestly, they're probably hearing better than we are at this point.
Because of their innocence, right?
There's none of that junk blocking anything.
Yes,
so, yeah.
all that stress that we have.
Exactly.
They don't need those baths, just we do.
They don't. They just run around outside.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. I have 1,000 more questions, but I don't want to keep you. We might need a part 2.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back. It's been fun. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any new content. I hope to see you back soon.